the clothing is basically the whole world. The physical reality is considered to be the clothing of Hashem, because Hashem chose to be revealed to a certain extent through those things. But the level of Hashem that is revealed through the letters of the Torah and through the world, the reality, again, that's just the story. But the crown and that Haman can get a hold of it, because those things are only ways, preparations, are only ready for something that will come through them. But the crown is where the Jew, where Am Yisrael takes the Torah and applies it in the world, and that creates a crown to Hashem. What does it mean, a crown? It means nachat ruach. It means pleasure to Hashem. And the self of Hashem comes through, a self of every person, by the way, comes through the pleasure and will. So basically, when a person knows that he is in the lowest of the low, and in the reality that he is, he sees the point of the Torah and the direction of the Torah to do the mitzvot in the objects of the world, but he sees that above all is the pleasure of Hashem. He does it for Hashem. So his interaction in the world is coming from the Torah, is guided by the Torah, and is applied in the lowest of the low. So then and he's not losing the point. The point is to bring out the self of Hashem into revelation, which is also our true self. And the way and the place to look for the true self and for Hashem is specifically in our life circumstances, and specifically in the darkest of the dark. There is where the fix needs to be made by the guidance of the Torah. That is turning darkness into light. Is the reason why Hashem created everything and gave the Torah for us, and we have the power for this. And this is the message of Esther, what she does and what she's doing, and what she did. And this is our message to look for Hashem in the lowest of the low, and to do the little thing that we can do, having in mind that we do it strictly for Hashem, and Hashem is going to be revealed specifically through an action, specifically through 100% consciousness and presence in the darkest of the dark, and knowing that Hashem is there. That turns everything around, and the darkest of the dark itself, meaning this world specifically, the darkest of the dark itself, we're not avoiding it, we're not ignoring it, we're not denying it, but we are totally here when we accept it, just to accept being in that place, invite the self to be revealed, and then specifically the darkest of the dark, specifically Achashverosh himself and Haman himself, becomes the channels for the light, okay? Because after all, they're just channels, just ways. They're just ways of Hashem. It's all Hashem. It's all the self. They don't have their own power. It's the power it's Hashem's power, and Hashem's power comes through our power. Hashem gave us the ability to give power to whatever, and once we give that power that we have from Hashem to give to Him, to Hashem, then the circumstances, those same circumstances that are considered the darkest of the dark, becomes our greatest channels for Hashem's goodness to the highest level, which is Hashem himself. This is something that we're supposed to contemplate and supposed to be honest with ourselves and to see where is it in our lives, to see, because there's a lot of confusion and there's a lot of fears, and a lot of times we choose the easier way because we're afraid of the longer way or the darker side. But that's where Hashem is, and we have, and with the guidance of the Torah, with the belief, and with having in mind that we do it for Hashem and we don't do it for personal purposes, we do it for Hashem Himself, and that's what we're here for. So that way we turn the darkness into light. We turn the Achashverosh and Haman to be the greatest channels of light, we know that from Achashverosh and Esther came the king that allowed Beis Hamikdash to be built, the second Beis Hamikdash, and from Haman himself came great tzaddikim in Am Yisrael that converted, Rabbi Meir and others that became mamish, those that understand in Gemara, and he knows that Rabbi Meir is, number one, is one of the biggest Tanaim. So Rabbi Meir, we know that, correcting, and we know that from Balak came Mashiach, and we know from the darkest places came the highest levels of Hashem's revelations. And that's why we, instead of being afraid, we should be like Esther and march in and do everything we can, not to find grace in the eyes of Achashverosh, but to find grace in the eyes of Hashem, and then go to Achashverosh. Because she fasted, she didn't make herself beautiful necessarily so much, she didn't put herself into that so much. Also, we can add, there is another figure in the Megilah, his name is Haggai. Haggai is the guard of the women over there. And the Haggai, the Alter Rebbe says, is coming from the word Igayon, sense. And she didn't, and basically her interaction with the Haggai teaches us what kind of interaction we should have with our own logic and sense. Haggai gave her all of the ability to be the most beautiful, meaning he was making sense of what's going to help her, and that is to be beautiful. And it says that she didn't necessarily fight him or anything. She didn't say, but she also didn't accept every offer he got for her, basically. So if you look closer in the Megillah and you see what it says about what Haggai did for the rest of the women and what he did for her, what he was trying to do for her, and the Midrash says that she, what she ate over there on kosher and stuff, and what she accepted, what she didn't accept, only things that were according to the Torah. She accepted what she was according to the Torah, she didn't accept, and so on. Everything the logic offers, but not always it's according to the Torah. And she always went with the Torah, not with logic, but she didn't fight logic, because logic itself is also another tool, another way that Hashem expresses himself, but it's not the way that Hashem expresses himself.
She would have relied on her beauty for...
It would make sense
to
rely...
Instead of relying on Hashem. But she took some of it because we have
True. And it says that Esther, throughout the Megillah, Esther wasn't fighting against the circumstances. She wasn't fighting against the circumstances. It says that Esther, the Alter Rebbe explains somewhere, it says in Mamrei Admor Zaken HaKetzarim about the Megillah, so it explains that she didn't fight her circumstances. She said to Hashem, I understand that with the nature and with the circumstances that you gave me, I can make it happen. She didn't say, oh, I have the poor circumstances. She didn't dive into Hashem to change anything. She worked with everything. She worked with the guy. She worked with them. But when it came, or she worked with Achashverosh, she worked with what she had. She didn't fight it, but when it came to Torah, when it was a contradiction, she didn't follow them. Meaning, she knew what comes first. Fasting comes before. A kosher comes before. And then, if there is more left for logic to speak, she took it. She didn't fight. She didn't say, I don't need logic. I go, I'm with Hashem. She went with the guy. She went with the Achashverosh, but only after she set her priorities first. She didn't fight her circumstances. She turned them. It was turned around with the approach that she had.
A quick question. Can you shortly explain how from a man became the Gilgul of Baalanes, you said?
Rabbi Meir. I don't know if it's Baalanes. It's probably not, but Rabbi Meir is very big in the Gemara. Basically, it says in the Gemara, מבני בניו של המן הרשע יושבים ולומדים תורה בבני ברק.
הבנתי.
It was a descendant. They converted. There is a question.
They did tshuva.
They did tshuva.
I see.
Because of Esther. Esther, basically, by doing what she did, not only she accomplished that for the Jewish people for now, but she basically pulled out the divine spark, that was there in Haman, and then he came back to Kedusha, basically.
Wow.
how do you do it? Basically, when you treat Haman in the way that he's supposed to be treated, okay, meaning you talk right to the divine spark that's in them, you emphasize that, and you just everything else don't bother you at all. You just don't mind it, like as it's completely nothing. You emphasize the right point, then you basically you bring it out. You bring it out, and that becomes, and then everything, all of the falls away, and the divine spark starts to be elevated, and eventually we see it. Sometimes it takes time, so it's from descendants, because also Torah-wise, the divine spark that was in Amman is the worst divine spark. It's it's the highest, but it goes for very low. So.
I missed one part.
Incredible.
So
Thank you.
Haman had family members that later converted.
So, yeah,
One of his
apparently.
descendants.
One of his descendants, it says. So I don't know so much. I mean, I can check more about it, but that's what it says. That's from.
Okay.
Also, by the way, the sense of smell was the only sense that wasn't tainted in
In
Gan Eden.
right. Or, yeah. Also, it's a
Didn't participate in the sin. The sense of smell, the only sense we have.
very good. Yeah, it's pure. It's also spiritual. There's a story that someone gave the Alter Rebbe a gift of tobacco box made of silver, and he said the only sense that is pure they wanna contaminate as well. They wanna, yeah. They give me gifts, like that has to do with smell.